Hello and welcome to Odds Now. It's just me riding solo today. Matt Hill here with your daily betting briefing on Euro 2024 for Wednesday, the 19th of June. We've got a triple header of games and it's the start of game week 2. So we've seen all 24 nations now play once and we're going to see them for the second time. Some, of course, looking to secure their place in the knockout stages. Some looking to put bad starts behind them. Now, before we get into today's bets, I just want to give a shout to yesterday's results. Finally, we've had a couple of winners after a lean spell. We had Turkey to win with both teams to score against Georgia, which just about came in. Turkey scoring a dramatic third goal on the break after Georgia gave it a good go. And then Portugal following up with a score and win result against the Czech Republic. Again, late drama, a 90th minute winner for Portugal. But we'll take it because we've had a couple of bad beats. So we had both singles at 10-3 and 5-2 and a 12.5-1 double up yesterday. That puts us right back in contention, ahead for the tournament. And I'm looking to follow that up today with 3 games. So thanks for tuning in here on Odds Now. If you haven't already, head over to oddsnow.com and you can click the tips and insights section for our written previews of each day. And keep it here on the YouTube channel by pressing subscribe so you get that notification every time we upload our daily preview videos. Now, I'll put the ticker along the bottom, which will show you today's matches and the match odds as of 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning. We start with game 1, which is Croatia versus Albania in Group B. And this is a big encounter for both sides, having both made losing starts to the tournament. Starting with Croatia, they were humbled 3-0 by Spain. And on the face of it, that result looks a pretty damning start for Zlatko Dalic's men. However, dig a little bit deeper and you'll see that Croatia actually had more XG than their opponents, 2.47 to Spain's 2.0 exactly. So that suggests wasteful finishing from Croatia and also some clinical finishing from Spain. Croatia actually also dominated possession, having 55% of the ball. So it certainly wasn't a bad performance from Croatia, but the result was obviously not up to scratch. They wasted a lot of strong opportunities, particularly in the first half. And then obviously game state changes when you're chasing the contest. Spain played some nice stuff, but I think their defence did look a little bit frail. Croatia got in behind a few times, and that could have been a very different scoreline on a different day. Meanwhile, for Albania, well, they took the lead against Italy remarkably, didn't they? The fastest ever goal in European Championship history from Nadim Bejrami, who is somebody we put up to be Albania's top scorer at 16-1. So that bet has got a real chance now of landing, hasn't it? But after that, it's fair to say Italy fairly comprehensively outplayed them, quickly reduced the arrears and reversed the scoreline before half-time and ran out comfortable 2-1 winners. Could have been a couple more if it wasn't for a good performance from the Albanian goalkeeper. So coming into this game, a victory would bring either side right back into contention for qualification, whereas defeat will push them to the brink of an exit. And I fancy Croatia to respond well here and put that bad variance behind them from the first game. You can see they're 4-9 favourites, strong favourites to win this contest. And I think that's about right. I expect them to start really quickly and strongly. They'll be very aware of Albania's tendency to make a strong start, having seen that early goal against Italy. So I don't think they'll be pulling any punches from the start. I expect them to have even more possession than they did against Spain, maybe up towards that 60-65 region. And that means Albania are just going to be sitting in. Silvino doesn't mind his side doing that, sitting in with a rigid defensive shape, trying to hit on the counter and maybe take advantage of set pieces, etc. But I think Croatia are just going to have too much for this Albanian side. I think the importance of the game for them means that they'll be right at their best from the first whistle. And the bet I want to be with here is Croatia to be leading at half-time and full-time, which is an odds against quote of 5-4. That price available with Betfair and Star Sports and that bookmakers' other affiliate sites. So it's quite a widely available price. I think that's very fair, 5-4. I think Croatia will do this with a degree of comfort, and that's why I also want to have a small stake on them to win and cover the -2.5 handicap. So that would be a 3-goal margin of victory or better. I do think if they score early, this could be a comfortable afternoon for the Croats, and we see more of what they can do when they're at their best. It'd be interesting to see if Dalic makes changes up front. A little bit of a clamour for changes in the front three, so we'll see what he does there. But I think regardless of you know who he ends up going with, there's a gulf between these two sides on the XG and on everything we've seen from them to suggest that Croatia get this done and get this done fairly comfortably to set up a blockbuster tie with Italy on match day 3. So that's my take on game 1. If we move it on to game 2, which is Group A action, Germany, the hosts, taking on Hungary. Very contrasting starts for these two sides. Germany, things couldn't have gone any better for them, really, could they? It was a dominant performance against Scotland in the tournament opener. The stuff of dreams for Julian Nagelsmann's side. They were 3-0 up at half-time, Scotland down to 10 men. And they went on to win 5-1, which probably didn't even reflect their level of comfort. The one goal was from 0.02 XG for Scotland, literally their only efforts on the goal. And it was an own goal from Antonio Rudiger as well. So that would be a slight concern for me, because Germany, one of the worries I had about them pre-tournament was their set-piece defending. So to concede in the fashion that they did, it didn't give me any comfort. But their general play, you couldn't help but be impressed with it. They really did dominate Scotland. I thought Scotland had the look of a team with the rabbit in the headlights kind of going on. They didn't seem to cope well with the atmosphere or the occasion. So it'll be interesting to see just how much of that was Scotland's poor performance making Germany look even better. However, look at the performances of Jamal Musiala, Florian Wirtz. They really did run rings around their opponents, and really good for Nagelsmann to have both of his centre-forward options in Kai Havertz and Nicholas Füllkrug getting off the mark. Füllkrug was an absolute screamer. So Germany come into this game in fantastic shape, no injuries either. Hungary, meanwhile, the team I really thought were potentially the dark horses of this tournament that could go into the quarter-final sort of stage potentially and outrun their odds. But it was a disastrous start for them against a Swiss side who probably outperformed expectations. Murat Yakin made a couple of surprise team selection choices that seemed to catch Hungary on the hop. They were well second best in the first half of that game with Switzerland, 2-0 down. And they did respond after the break. Marco Rossi, who's a tactician I rate very highly, changed a few things. They got back into the game at 2-1 with Varga's header. And from there, they could have easily nicked a point. Switzerland eventually making it 3-1 on the break in injury time in a similar fashion to the Turkey-Georgia game yesterday. But I liked what I saw in the second half from Hungary. That was more what I was expected to see from them from the first whistle. Rossi is a really clever manager when it comes to using the media. So I was not surprised to see him playing down Hungary's chances in the post-match press conference. He said something along the lines of, "I dare anybody to have a pound of their own money on my team to beat Germany." So a very sort of downbeat and crushed by the performance in the first game. But that, to me, was a bit of a laying down of the gauntlet to his players to deliver a response. And every time he's asked for a response from them in his 6-year tenure, they've delivered. And interestingly, they've played Germany 3 times with Rossi as their manager, and they've never lost. 2 draws and a victory. They won in Germany the last time that they met in the Nations League. So this taking on Germany in their own backyard shouldn't hold too many fears for them. Of course, this is very different, a major tournament. Germany confidence tails up after that Scotland win. So this is a really stiff task for them. But the way I want to get on side with Hungary here is not necessarily in the draw or the win market where they are huge prices. I feel like it's a lot safer to play their over 3.5 shots on target line, which with Bet365 is a very generous 2-1. I definitely think they can cover that. The main areas I see them having joy are set pieces, really. And I've already touched on it. Germany, potentially fragile from set pieces, conceded an own goal in their first game. Traditionally, under Nagelsmann's time in charge, have been a bit weak from set pieces. Hungary, very physical. As you saw with Varga, the centre forward, Adam Lang, who can come on, is an absolute unit as well. Hungary will be pumping balls into the box at every opportunity. I have no doubt about this. And I think for them to get 4 or more shots on target is very viable. So at 2-1, more than happy to take that. Hoping for some of my outright positions on them to get out the group, that they can get a result, but I'm under no illusions that that's a very tough ask against this talented Germany team. The last game on Wednesday is Scotland, and it's a big game for them, isn't it, against Switzerland? You do feel that although they won't mathematically be eliminated tonight, defeat here would be critical, I think, for Steve Clarke's side. particularly when you factor in their -4 goal difference from match day one. You may well see teams getting through with 3 points via the best third place route, but I don't think anybody's going to be going through with a -4, -5 goal difference. So Scotland really do need to take a point here at minimum, I would say, to give them a chance of progression in the last game. Switzerland, like I say, really pleasantly surprised by Switzerland because they limped through qualifying, 5 draws in their 10 games. Murat Yakin calls for his head during qualification. But the team he was expected to line up was quite different from the team he actually selected. He made some big, bold calls in his team selection, and they really paid off for him. Udo, the striker, getting a goal, of course, but some of the lads that were brought into midfield really shone as well, I thought. And it'd be interesting to see if he sticks with that lineup here. I think he probably will, with confidence so high in the camp. Scotland, meanwhile, they've got a real dilemma on their hands because they've been really wedded to playing this five at the back all the way through Steve Clarke's tenure with the wing backs bombing forward. But they were so far off it against Germany and exploited on so many occasions, just passing through the line so easily that's bound to knock the confidence of Scotland's back line and midfield. And I do wonder, with Ryan Porteous' red card, whether this is the opportunity for Clarke to just move away from that formation. And if it goes wrong, kind of point the finger at a lack of personnel with Porteous being suspended. It'll be interesting to see indeed, because I think logic dictates he should stick to the system he knows, but it's very easy to abandon logic when you've suffered such a heavy defeat and when there's so much pressure on you to change things from the public. So I'm very interested to see the lineups for this match, particularly Scotland's. Ultimately, I'm expecting, like Hungary, a much improved performance from the Scots. I think they've had time to take stock. They've got enough senior figures in the camp with the likes of Andy Robertson, John McGinn, Scott McTominay, not to get too downcast with that result. And while confidence might be low, I do think we'll see a much improved performance. However, I just look at the way that Switzerland controlled affairs against Hungary in the first hour of that match, and I worry for Scotland here, whether they're going to be able to get a grip enough on the game. So I do think they've got a good chance of making this a close contest. I do think they might actually score in this clash, Scotland, but I have to be siding at the prices with Switzerland to win and both teams to score, which is a general 7-2 chance. I think, this bet served us very well in yesterday's games. We're seeing a lot of goals at this European Championship, and I think as the desperation factor becomes more prominent for these teams on 0 points, we're going to just see the goals continue to flow. It's been a joy to watch, hasn't it, really, with the lack of caginess in most of these matches. And I think this could be another end-to-end affair, not one to be missed. So, yeah, Switzerland to win and both teams to score is the selection there. Okay, so we'll just bring those best bets back up onto the screen for one final run through. So Croatia, I'm very strong on. Croatia to be leading at halftime and full time would be my best bet of the day. Probably 2-point win at 5-4. That's available with Betfair. Slightly more ambitious playing that game as well. I want to get Croatia on side at the -2.5 handicap, just in case they do get that early lead against Albania, because then I could see it becoming a comfortable afternoon for them. So 1 point on there, 7-2. That's a price that's available generally. Hungary, I want to get them on side, but I'm not confident enough to back them to get a result against Germany. So I'm going to instead play them over 3.5 shots on target, 2-point win at 2-1. That is a Bet365 best price. And then Switzerland to win with both teams to score versus Scotland, a bet that served us well in yesterday's 2 games. The goals are flowing in this tournament, and I just think with the game state, that is the most likely outcome there. So I want to get 1 point on side at 7-2, and that is a price available with most bookmakers. So good luck with your bets. If you are playing today, be sure to give us a thumb up if you like this video and comment with your best bets below. I hope you enjoy watching Odds Now's content, and we'll see you again very soon. Thanks for watching.